What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel, and today we are going to discuss the fact that I watched all 89 episodes of Haikyuu in 2 weeks, which is very, very quick for me. Now, before we get started, don't forget to like this video if you like the video, and leave a comment of who your favorite Haikyuu character is. Since I am very new to the fandom, I am learning very quickly that a lot of people have very different opinions on the characters within Haikyuu, so I want to get to know all of you and learn who your favorite character is and why. So leave that comment down below. Now, for some context, at the end of 2023, I told myself that I was going to watch at least one new anime per month. So Haikyuu is actually my 4th anime of the year. I watched Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood in January, I watched Ranking of Kings, and I watched A Sign of Affection. And that was my January through March. April was Haikyuu. I'm actually also going to be finishing Mashle, Magic, and Muscles here within the next few days, so I'm actually a little bit ahead of my schedule, so I'm really, really proud of myself. But I am a comfort show watcher. When I finish Mashle, I'm gonna be real with y'all, I'm gonna rewatch Demon Slayer. Mostly because the season's about to start, so I like to rewatch it right before the season starts. However, I've watched that show like 20 times, so I don't need to rewatch it, I just do. So to keep myself from only watching shows that I've seen before, I was like, nope, you are going to watch one new anime a month. And my friends voted on Haikyuu for this month, and I thought this was going to take me the entire month because 89 episodes meant that I was going to have to watch about a cadence of 3 per day, and I thought that was going to be a bit tough for me. I am very busy. There are many days where I either don't have time to watch anime or can only really get one episode in, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be tough. This was the longest one I've watched this year so far, and it honestly took me less time than all but A Sign of Affection, which was only 12 episodes. Now you might be wondering, wow, you must really like it then. And I think it's kind of obvious, yes, I really liked it. What can I say? But I wanted to talk a little bit about my review of Haikyuu and why I liked it, what I give the rating of. I'm really quickly going to do just an overview of it that's going to be spoiler free, and then I'll break it down season to season and get into some spoilers. So just an overview of the show is that it was very, very surprising for me that I enjoyed it. So I have had friends that have been trying to get me to watch this show for, I want to say months, but it's probably been well over a year. And that is because I'm constantly like, oh my gosh, I watch Attack on Titan, I watch Demon Slayer, I watch Jujutsu Kaisen, I watch very depressing stories. So my friends were like, you should watch Haikyuu, you would probably enjoy it. And I was like, no, I think I need the depressing stories because that's how I feel for the characters. So the only reason I decided to turn Haikyuu on was because I did a poll on my Instagram and it won by a landslide. So I was like, all right, I gotta do it. And it very much surprised me. Now I will say, because I have a sports background, I was a figure skater for many, many years throughout my high school years and beyond, I definitely feel a lot of what they're feeling. Now I know figure skating is very different from volleyball because volleyball is a team sport. Figure skating is a kind of an outlier of a sport where it's just very different. But I still felt like I was on the court with them because I know what it's like to go to a competition or go to a tournament and be like, all right, like, I'm in charge of my destiny here and it's time to do this. Like when they were getting ready to go on the court, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And honestly, because these characters were feeling a very real life nerve rather than like, I can't relate to a character that's going to go fight a demon and possibly die because I've never been in that situation before. And I'm not saying that I don't like those shows, I obviously do. This was a different experience for me because I could relate to the characters a slightly different way. Now, I'm gonna say a few cons really quick before I get into what I loved most about the show, and then I'll talk season to season. So the biggest con of the show for me was the lack of female characters, which I'm sure doesn't surprise anyone. Now, I am well aware that obviously this is still a shonen and it is a boys team, so it's going to be based off of the boys. However, There was definitely more opportunity to have some well-written females in the story. I would say that our two managers could have been much better written than they were. And of course our older manager, who I can't even remember her name off the top of my head, oops, she got that very oh, she's just there for the boys to fawn over, which was cute and all, but it definitely got annoying. The girls in the show, like the Krasno volleyball team, that was the girls team, they were very weak and they didn't make it past the first round of the first tournament, and then we never heard from them again except for their captain, and we only heard from her because there was definitely some romantic interest for her and our boys team captain Daichi. So I definitely would have preferred to have a little bit more representation of the female girlies in this show. However, I still understand why it wasn't there. I just think the writing could have been a little bit better for them. There's also a few characters that I was really looking forward to meet that I'd heard about that just ended up kind of not really playing that big of a role in the story. So I think that there were definitely plenty of characters where it was just so overwhelming how many characters there are in this show that I was I shut down. I got to the point where I was I'm just gonna care about my Krasno boys. I can't care about anybody else because there's too much going on. But specifically in season 4, there's a character that's introduced that I thought had some really great opportunity to be a really cool storyline for our main character because of the similarities between the two of them, and he was there and he was really good, and then he just completely disappeared. And this could be just a lack of, I haven't read the manga, so maybe the anime wrote out this character a little bit more, or maybe there's more to come from him, but I was kind of disappointed with that introduction. And there are just some characters here and there that I thought could have been a little bit more interesting to the story, but we're just kind of there. But that's really the only issues I have with the show. Outside of that, this was a really good show. I think its biggest strength was absolutely just the main characters in general. I would protect the Krasno boys team with my life. They are my sons and I love them all. I would be the team mom, making sure they're all being fed and they're all stretching and they're all warming up before their stuff. And oh my gosh, I love them all very, 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 very much. And when a show has a cast of characters that I can get behind like that, I am going to get behind the show. That is truly what That's truly what I love the most in shows, is the characters. If the show is really, really well written and there's lots of twists and turns and there's all these different things, but the characters are just kind of boring to me, I'm not gonna care about the show. It could be literally the greatest show ever written, but if the characters are just kind of to me, I'm gonna be yeah, that show's kind of crap. But that's just me. That's just who I am. That's why I love Demon Slayer. I think Demon Slayer is a very heavy emphasis on the characters, and I think Haikyuu is the same way. Now this show is about volleyball, so there's not really a ton of opportunity for it to get super twisty and turny with plot twists and that sort of thing. So they did really well with what they had for it being a sports anime. But overall, I really, really, really enjoyed watching it. I thought that the characters were really good. The animation for a sports anime was really good. The music was exciting. All the OPs were really fun. Special shout out to the fact that I knew 90% of the voice cast, and that got me really excited because I enjoyed it. Also, I watched it subbed. I watch all anime subbed. I'm not a huge fan of dub. Dub, as far as I know, is not available on Crunchyroll as of right now, and one of my friends was you should watch the dub because it'll change your life. It's hilarious. I'll do it. I've heard that it's really, really funny, but I was why would I watch it dubbed when half of the show is already in English? I'm so funny. Yeah, Noise Kill and Krasno Fight and Don't Mind, Don't Mind. Oh, I was loving it. Is that what they really do in volleyball in Japan? Because if so, that's kind of cute. Anyway, it was just overall really, really good. So let's break it down by season really quick. Alright, so season 1 was definitely my least favorite season. However, that is very common for me with shows in general. I usually don't really get into something until season 2 or 3, and if I don't get into it by season 2 or 3, I'm not necessarily going to drop it, but I'm probably just not going to care about it, and by the time it finishes, I'm never going to think about it again. Now, with Haikyuu, I was pretty into it by season 1. In fact, it got to the point where when they were in their final match against Aoba Josai, I was like stressed out of my mind. I was screaming at the TV. I was like, is this what it's like to actually be a sports fan? And mostly because I didn't know that the third-year boys were going to have the opportunity to, compete in the spring tournament. I thought if they lost that game, they would be done. So I was feeling the stress, man. And of course, they went on to lose that game, which I absolutely agree with the choice in the writing to have them lose that, because I think if they had won that, it would have felt a lot more unrealistic and like there weren't really any stakes in the game. It's kind of like if you're watching a battle shonen and everyone just always survives, there's no deaths whatsoever, and everyone's totally fine at the end. While that might be a little bit easier to swallow because everyone lives happily ever after, it's very unrealistic when they're fighting these wars. So when you come to a sports game and they were not that great until all of our first years showed up, it would not have made sense for them to win and go to nationals during that first season. And I kind of felt like that was not going to happen. I agree with that choice, and I sobbed. By the end of the season, was fully committed to these characters. I felt like their mom. When they cried, I cried. I was literally sobbing. I sent a picture of my face to my friends, and I was like, why am I crying over a sports anime? And they were like, welcome to the family. And it was really, really fantastic. I think they did a very good job at developing Hinata and Kageyama. They are probably my favorite dynamic in the show. And developing just all the characters in general, I really grew to love every single one of them. But overall, I gave season 1 a 8 out of 10. It was a really good starter season. It got me interested in the show enough to keep going without being like, oh, this is a chore. And I definitely had a lot of love for the cast of characters that they had developed at that time, and I was enough into it that I was very stressed during those games. Season 2. Now, season 2 was a lot of fun at the beginning with all of the training. I really enjoyed that they showed so much training heading into the spring tournament. And I also really enjoyed that they were training against these top teams that they wouldn't have a chance to compete against until they get to nationals. And I love that they showed them just losing and losing and losing and losing. But because they kept on losing these practice tournaments, they were getting stronger because of it. I think that's super realistic for sports, is you are going to have a lot of hard times in practice, but those rock bottom times are very often the things where you experience the most growth. And I think they did a really good job at depicting that. I also liked that we got to really get some development with characters outside of Kurasuno. And while Kurasuno will forever be my team and have all of my favorite characters, I really enjoyed getting to know a lot of these other fun personalities amongst these Tokyo teams and everything. Kenma is definitely up there on my list of favorite characters, and I really just enjoyed the time that they had. I still felt like we got to the tournament part very, very quickly, which I don't mind. I like the shows that kind of just get to the point and don't spend too much time on the in-between. I like having some time in between, but I also like the excitement of being in the heat of the game in this show, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think that the beginning of the spring tournament was really interesting because they had to go up against Dateko again, and they were definitely better this time, but so was Karasuno. And I really enjoyed seeing that both teams leveled up, so it still was a hard win, but they won. And then of course the win against Aoba Josai was a big deal. I know this is probably a very unpopular opinion because I know a lot of people like him, but I don't like Oikawa. I don't like him. He's too much. I don't know how to describe it. I think I like him better now that they're not competing against him, but I didn't enjoy him as a character, so I really didn't have any desire for Aoba Josai to win anything. And the same can go for Hashira Torizawa, which I'll talk about a little bit more in season 3. None of the characters interested me. Which is helpful so that I can be fully behind my boys rather than kind of feeling bad for the other team. But it was really, really good to see them beat Aoba Josai in pretty much the same exact way that they lost in the tournament prior, and it kind of came full circle. Also, a side note, I really also like Coach Ukai. He's one of my favorite characters. I really love his passion and how he really only signed up to go up against Nekoma and is all of a sudden this like really strong coach that just cares about these kids so much. It really, really was powerful and I enjoyed that. And overall, season 2, I gave an 8.5 out of 10. It progressed very well through the story. It gave us a very good sense of camaraderie between the boys, as well as making those friends with the other schools and everything. So very, very much enjoyed how it went. And on to season 3. So season 3, of course, is 10 episodes of just the game against Shira Torizawa. And as I said before, none of the characters in that team I really cared about at all. So the whole time I was just screaming for Krasno to win. And it was really, really good. So a couple things I want to call out about season 3 mostly happened later on. So the main thing that grabbed my attention was in episode 8 when Coach Ukai just started screaming at them, saying like, don't look down, volleyball is a sport where you're always looking up, when it felt like, you know, the boys were kind of down in the trenches. And a couple of reasons why this spoke to me was, one, because it was just like really awesome to see Coach Ukai just be that invested in this team after everything in season 1 when he didn't even want to coach, and he then only was coaching because he wanted revenge against Nekoma, and now he just truly is wanting to see this team succeed extremely well. And it was probably the moment I can say like, wow, I really like this show. I'm feeling the love and the passion from everyone involved in this story, and for some reason that line really spoke to me. It was just a really powerful moment, and when they, in the season finale, beat Shira Torizawa, the moment when the ball lands in the court and it's Karasuno's final point, and the third years kind of stand there like stunned with each other and then start sobbing and hugging. I'm like getting teary-eyed thinking about it because it was so sweet. As someone who has been in sports before, to have that moment, it was just so beautiful, and I again had to pause it because I was sobbing along with them. You know, by the time you're at the end of season 3, and this is one of the reasons why I think it was such a good choice on the writer to have them lose in season 1, have us feel that heartbreak with them and go through it with them. It makes the win feel so much more gratifying and so much better when they find out they're going to nationals. These third years are still going, like they're still able to play for their high school team even though, you know, they're so close to graduating. Oh my gosh, it was so well done. I was sobbing my eyes out. I'm literally crying just thinking about it, because I think as an athlete you can say like you've been there, you've experienced those times, like those ultimate highs, you've experienced those ultimate lows, and you feel like you're sitting there with these characters, and that's what was really so beautiful about it. I gave season 3 a 9.5 out of 10, even though it was only 10 episodes and it was just the one match, which sometimes these matches can go so long that I'm like, can we just get to it? Someone needs to win. It was still just a really good season with a lot of highs and lows and just some really beautiful moments that I really enjoyed. Season 4. Now, I had my fair share of small issues with season 4. As I stated earlier, season 4 is when we get introduced to the character of Korai Hoshiuma. I call him the bird because he literally just looks like a bird. And I was really looking forward to the introduction of this character, partially because he is voiced by Natsuki Hanai, who is Tanjiro's voice actor, who is Kaneki's voice actor. He's my favorite voice actor if you've watched anything on this channel before. And I was very much looking forward to his introduction. And as soon as he was introduced, I thought his character was very interesting because he's very similar to our main character, Hinata, of very, very short but flies high, but Korai seemed to be better at it than Hinata was. And I thought that this could be for a very interesting dynamic when Korai would, you know, end up meeting Hinata, and it like, they met, but nothing ever happened. They never even went up against him, he was there. He was shown to be really good. He was watching the tournament, the final tournament of season 3, and then after like 2 episodes of that final tournament, he never appeared again. So I don't know if that was an anime thing. I just felt like that was a missed opportunity for this character. And again, there's still more story to come that I don't know, so there could be a lot more to that character than what I'm seeing. I just felt like it could have been so cool for them to like go up against that school and have it be like the 2 short kings. The 2 shorties that can fly high up against each other. It would have been really interesting to see, because the other thing too is they mentioned that Korai kind of carried his team while Hinata very much helps his team, and I would not say he carries it. What's so great about Karasuno is that they figured out the teamwork. But overall, I really like season 4 still. The training arc at the beginning was really good. I love to see that Kageyama is getting invited to something so big because he is very special. I also loved that Hinata was just like trying really hard to be invited to a training camp and ended up being the ball boy, but learned a lot from that. It was really, really inspiring to see him work really hard to use that experience as help, honestly. So I really, really enjoyed the very beginning to see Kageyama get that opportunity, to see Tsuki, even though I don't love his character, get that opportunity, and to get to see them go to nationals, you know, like they're at nationals now, and it's pretty crazy. I liked that each match has been pretty difficult. I would say I wish some of these matches would be a little bit more quick and easy. There does get to be a point where I'm like, okay, how many games now have we gotten to a 3rd set and we've gotten to a deuce? Like, can we come up with some kind of different thing? It was pretty tough, but I still really, really felt great when they won. I'm interested to see what's gonna happen next because they go up against Nekoma in the movie that's coming out here in a few weeks, so I have thoughts on that. I don't really know what to expect. I feel like this is the final arc, according to anime, and their fight against Nekoma is definitely not what I thought it was going to be, where I thought it was going to be like that was the final. Whoever wins is the national champion, and whoever doesn't win is the national 2nd place, but they're already going up against them and they are not even to the semifinals. I think this is the match that'll determine the semifinals, which means if they were to defeat Nekoma, they would still have 2 more matches to go. The semifinal match and then the final match, I think. I can't remember. So I'm interested to see where that goes. Season 4, I would say I put it a little bit lower than season 2 and 3. I still really enjoyed season 4, don't get me wrong. I liked that they were at nationals, of course, and everyone was just working really well together as a team. I just didn't quite feel the same amount of excitement that I felt when they beat like Aoba Josai and Shira Torizawa. Them beating those 2 schools, I felt that in my soul. I had to pause the show. When they beat that final school in the end of season 4, which I don't even remember the name, I was just kind of like, okay. And again, I didn't really care for any of those characters on that team either, so, you know, that's just me though. That is kind of a quick little breakdown of each season. Now to talk about my rating of the show as a whole, because I have very few complaints and it really just has to do with like, I wish there was more female representation, which I guess wasn't really needed in this anime. And then I wish that one specific character of Korai Hoshimi was used a bit more. That's really not that bad as far as like cons goes for the show. So overall, I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. It actually knocked Jujutsu Kaisen out of my top 5 animes of all time, and actually knocked Black Clover from 4th to 5th. So it has weaseled its way into my top 4 animes. My top 3 are pretty hardcore locked. I don't know if any anime can break that top 3 because it is Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, and The Case Study of Vanitas. Who knows, maybe the movie will really speak to me and it'll move up in the ranks even more. But I do give it a 9.5 out of 10. There was very few things that I had an issue with, and I really, really enjoyed my time watching it, and so I give it a very high rating because of that, because there's not really much I can say where I'm like, I don't like it. I will wait to give it a full rating until I see the end. I hear that the movie is the last installment of the anime, but there is like 2 arcs after that, so I'm assuming they're probably gonna beat Nekoma, and then that's gonna be the end of the anime because that's been like the main goal. and then I'll pick up the manga and finish it. At least that's what I think is gonna happen. And finally, let's talk favorite characters. Now this was really hard to nail down because, as I said before, this show I really liked because of the characters. That's like my main thing. If a show has good characters that I can love, I'm gonna love the show. I say that there is legitimately a three-way tie for my favorite, and that is going to be a tie between Kageyama, Hinata, and Nishinoya. They are my favorite three idiots. I can't decide who I like more. If I had to really pick, I would probably pick Nishinoya. He grew on me so quickly. The introduction to him was funny because I thought he was gonna be like the angry boy that was like kind of annoying. Fun fact, his voice actor is Genya and Bakugo. So he has a very, I don't know if like you could say he gets typecasted, but Genya and Bakugo are both technically cinnamon rolls, but have a very angry and loud exterior. And I originally thought Nishinoya was going to be that, and it turned out he was just a bright sunshine that was just so silly and so fun, and I love him! Hinata is the kind of character that I always love. Like, Tanjiro's my favorite character of all time. It should be no surprise that I love Hinata. Just an underdog, has to work really hard. He has a little bit of talent, but he really can't use that talent to the fullest extent, but he has to work hard for it in order to make it work. He has a lot of obstacles that face him, and he's just like such a bright sunshine boy. I love him. I love Kageyama. Kageyama's funny. He is so silly. I love his development. I think of the three, his development is the best. And I also tend to love the like kind of sad boy, dark hair, kind of emo boys. Like Megumi is my favorite Jujutsu Kaisen character, so it's always a trend for me. I want to say an honorable mention though to Daichi, Coach Ukai, and Sugawara. I loved the three of them. They are very close to my favorites as well, but I just love the Kurasuno boys. Like, I know so many people love like some of the other characters. The Kurasuno boys, I love them to death. So those are my favorite characters, and that would be it for today's video. I apologize for the wildness of this recap and review. I didn't write a script for this either, so it's kind of all over the place. But I just wanted to talk about my boys. I love them. By the time I'm posting this, I'll probably already be done with Mashal, Magic and Muscles, so be on the lookout for a review of that as well. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure you like the video and leave that comment of who your favorite character is in Haikyuu. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell notification so you get notified whenever I make new videos. I'm trying to follow a weekly cadence of posting long form videos, so definitely you'll want to know when I'm making those videos. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media. I am at Looking Nerdy on all the platforms, so that's TikTok, Instagram, X, all the things at Looking Nerdy. If you want to follow me there, the link will be in the description. But that's all I have for today, so thank you for watching, and Johnny!